Lesson 34B is volume of prisms. We're going to find how to find volume of a whole bunch of different kinds of prisms. They're all the same formula. We're going to talk about what those steps are. So first thing on your notes. Before we get to that, really, I want to talk about your background knowledge. In the past, so far, actually, on your X problems, I see a lot of you doing this. In 6th grade, you learn how to find volume of one shape. That's the rectangular prism. Looks like this, right? And you've been just doing multiply all three numbers. This is only true for rectangles. Length times width times height. That only works for rectangles. Now that on your homework I've given you other shapes, it's not going to work. So far you've been doing length times width times height, but again, this only works on rectangles. If I give you this shape and this shape, the length times width times height does not work anymore because you have been taught a misunderstanding. The real formula, I'm going to tell you, is volume equals area of the base times height of the figure. So on your notes, fill in the blanks here. We're going to talk about area of the base as capital B. In that first box, write capital B. Lowercase b stands for base of a shape. Uppercase B, we're calling it area of that shape. Height of the figure, since we don't want to get it confused with the regular lowercase h, which just means height of a shape, we're going to call this altitude. Altitude is how long or how tall that whole prism is. So your volume formula, which is on the right side of your notes, in that box, right, volume equals capital B times altitude. Capital B times altitude is what you're writing down. So let's practice doing a little recognition first. First of all, what's a base? Here's a really simple shape that you already know what it is. This is a rectangular prism. The bases are the two shapes in the prism that are not only exactly the same size and shape, meaning they're congruent, but they're also parallel. See how this one is facing this one? Those are the bases. And then the altitude is how tall this whole shape is. So this would be altitude. It's usually connecting both bases. It's like how far those bases are apart from each other. Okay? In this shape, raise your hand. Who can tell me what the shape of the base is? There's two of them. They're exactly the same, and they're parallel to each other. What is it? Triangle. It's this one, and this one. So the altitude would be how tall it is, which is like this. How about this shape? What is the shape of this base, Nancy? It's a square or a rectangle, which is this or this. So altitude would be how tall it is. So far, so good? How about this shape? It's just lying on its side. The base is still, there's two of them. They're exactly the same. They're facing each other. They're parallel. Yeah. It's a triangle. Good. So that is this shape and this shape. Where is the altitude this time? Right. This one. So far, so good? All right, a couple more. What is the base shape of this prism? There's two of them. You have to imagine it. Zach? It's still triangle, right? There is this triangle here and this triangle here. The altitude would be how long this whole prism is. So this is still a triangle. How about this shape? Don't tell me cylinder. What is the shape of the base? Alex? What is it? Circles. Good. There's the circle here and a circle here. And the altitude, again, is how tall the whole prism is. How about this shape? There's two of them, only two of them. They're exactly the same, and they're facing each other. They're parallel. It's not a pentagon. Pentagon has 5 sides. Sean? Hexagon. That's this one right here and this one right here. Where's the altitude this time? Straight up and down. Okay? So far so good. Okay, so again, volume of prism, that's capital B times altitude. Here is the shape that you already know, rectangular prism. So far, you've been doing length times width times height. That is because the area of the base, which is a rectangle, is base times height. If you find the area of the rectangle, then times altitude, it looks like just multiply all 3 numbers. But with a triangle, the base is a triangle. How do you find the area of a triangle? What is it? Say it again. Base times height, and then, yes, divided by 2. Then times the altitude. So these are exactly the same formula. The difference is the base shape. Volume is always going to be area of the base times altitude. So this base was a rectangle, so it's base times height. This base is a triangle, so it's base times height divided by 2. Then times altitude. So the only extra new thing you're learning today is times altitude. Everything else you already know how to do. Basic area formula. Got it? Okay, so officially number 1 then. This is called a hexagonal prism. Go ahead and write that on your notes where it says name of shape. The bases are hexagons, so we call it a hexagonal prism. You have not learned how to find area of a hexagon yet, so I'm just telling you that the area of that is 40. Now, if the area of the base times altitude is what I'm looking for, how do I set up my problem? I want area of the hexagon, which is 40, times altitude. Who can tell me what altitude is? 7. Now, sometimes it tells you the units, sometimes it doesn't. If it's feet, inches, centimeters, whatever, then use it. If it doesn't have it, you're going to write units, which is abbreviated as UN. So in this case, it's going to be volume equals whatever your number is, units cubed. UN cubed. Hopefully you can do this in your head. 40 times 7, what is that? Right, so the volume of the hexagonal prism is 280 units cubed. Please write down everything you see. Number 2, there are 2 bases. What shape is it? They're exactly the same. They're parallel to each other. What is the base shape? Yes? Trapezoid. So this is called a trapezoidal prism. Just to save you some time, I'm telling you the area of that blue space, that trapezoid, is 354. How do you find volume again? Not base times altitude. What is a capital B? It's not a base. Area of a base shape. Area of the base shape times altitude. So you're going to do 354, which is the area of the trapezoid, times 4. Go ahead and find what that is. And label it correctly. Volume is always cubed because it's a 3-dimensional shape. Volume is 3 dimensions. Always cubed. Good. The volume of the trapezoidal prism is 1,416 units cubed. Raise your hand if you got this correct. Awesome. All right, number 3. There's 2 of them. They're exactly the same. What shape is it? Pentagon. So this is called a pentagonal prism. Again, you have not learned yet how to find area of a pentagon, so I'm just telling you the area of that base shape is 147 units squared. What is the volume in units cubed? Go ahead and use the sentence frame.
The volume of
Pentagonal.
pentagonal prism is
294 units cubed, correct. Okay, number 4. I think you could do this one by yourself. You can also name this by yourself. I think you can figure it out. Go ahead and take 2 minutes to do that. What is the name of the shape, first of all? Awesome. Triangular prism. And then, using the sentence frame, what was your answer?
The volume of the triangular prism is 504 units.
Cubed. Perfect. 504 units cubed. Turn your notes over. You're doing the same thing, but this time I didn't tell you the area of the shapes. You are finding the areas using knowledge you already know. What is the name of this shape? Rectangular prism. Go ahead and write that down. What is the base shape, since you told me it's a rectangular prism? The shape. What's the name? It's a rectangle. So we need to find the area of that base rectangle. How do you find area of a rectangle?
You multiply the base and the height.
Base times height, which is 10 times 5, which is 50. So on your notes where it says area of, I want you to draw the shape. Just like I did. Do exactly what I did on your notes. Draw the shape, label it, and then times altitude. What is the altitude in this prism? How tall is it? It's 7. So you're going to do 50 times 7 and then inches cubed. What would that be? Awesome. You should be able to do that one in your head. The volume of the rectangular figure or rectangular prism is 350 inches cubed. A little bit harder now. What is this shape? What are the bases? There's 2 of them, exactly 2 of them. They're exactly the same. They're parallel. What is that? Trapezoid. Write down trapezoidal prism. What's the formula for volume again? What have we been doing on every problem? What did you write as the first thing on your notes on the front there? What's capital B mean? Area of the base. Now, what is this base? I highlighted it blue. Trapezoid, you just told me. So we want to find area of the trapezoid, then times altitude. So I want you to draw that trapezoid. If you forgot what area of a trapezoid is, I reminded you up there. Go ahead and jot it down. Draw that trapezoid. Now let's label this together. Looking at this, I want base 1, but it's not labeled. What number is it? How do I figure that out? It's 5. How'd you know?
Because they're 2 of the exact same. It shows those.
Right. This one's 5. So this one has to be 5. So on the one that you drew, I want you to label this 5. What's the base 2? What's the bottom of the trapezoid? 11. And then what is the height? It's 4. So go ahead and find the area of the trapezoid first. Base 1 plus base 2 times height divided by 2. Please draw it, label it. There's a height of 4. And then first find the area of the base, because that's the first step to finding volume. Area of the base times altitude. Who can tell me what number from our prism is the altitude? Steven, what's the altitude? No, 4 is the height of the trapezoid. 8. Do we care about these 6s? Not they're slanted lines, so they're not height. Because height, remember I keep saying, when you measure how tall you are, do you stand up straight or do you stand slanted? Straight. We want the ones that are 90 degrees. So that would be 4, which is the height of the trapezoid. 6 are slanted lines. We don't care about 6. We don't need it for volume. We don't need it for area. 8 is the length of that whole prism. 8 is the altitude. So back here, we're going to have times 8. So 11 plus 5 times 4 divided by 2, then times 8. Here's the sentence frame. The volume of the trapezoidal prism cubed. 256 is correct. 256 units cubed. Number 7 is still a trapezoidal prism. Go ahead and write it down. And I, again, would like you to do exactly what I'm doing. Draw the shape and label it so that you are not confusing yourself and using the wrong numbers. The top number here is 12. That is clearly labeled, right? The height is 3. That is clearly labeled. Do we care about that 4? No, that's slanted. What about the bottom part of the trapezoid? How'd you know it was 6? Right. This is not labeled, but this one is. They are the same length. Find area of that trapezoid, then times the altitude. Anaya, what is the altitude? Yep, this is the altitude. So times 9. Here is what you are doing. Go ahead and calculate that. Sentence frame. Trapezoidal. Very good. Very nice, very nice. Let's talk about number 8. What do you think the shape is called?
Triangular prism.
Go ahead and write that down. How do you find area of a triangle? Make sure you divide by 2. Otherwise, you're giving me a volume of a rectangular prism. Triangle base needs to have a triangle area, which is 8 times 3 divided by 2 times, what's the altitude? 4.
The triangular prism would be 48 feet cubed.
48 feet cubed. Very nice. Last one is also a triangular prism. The base is the shape in the front here and the one in the back. Go ahead and draw it off to the side so you can label it properly. What's the altitude here? 3. So 7 times 4 divided by 2 and then times 3. Volume of this triangular prism is 42 feet cubed. Any questions about this? Number 1. What did you learn today? Ready? Share.